Shalom, Lord willing. This has the audio, technical difficulties, Lord willing, it's on, man. All right. But again, get right back into it. End time Bible prophecies, speaking. Situation in Iran, is from CNN. All right. First and foremost, giving all praise to YAHAWASHI, SHAM, YAHAWASHI, Bahashemakahakodash, double honor to the apostles, the great millstone, do rule well. Peace, love, and blessings to the brothers on the highways and byways, giving all diligence to make your calling and election sure. And blessings to the very few sisters listening, learning, and believing. I'm that Phil Labor Kanakala coming at you once again with another lesson. And again, anti-Bible prophecy. And I'm going to just hop right into it. This is a video from CNN, fair use, fair use. This is only for commentary, educational purposes only. This video is not monetized. Neither I'm making money off of this video in any way. All right. As you can see here, U.S. State Department of Americans in Iran. All right. And as we know, Trump said is if the Iranian president interacts with Iranian protests, if he kills any of them, that the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go in the name of freedom. Okay. You see hundreds killed in Iran protests. We can let this play a little bit.
Of a bloody crackdown by Iran's security forces against anti-regime protesters are being realized. The US-based group, human rights activists, have said that they have verified the deaths of more than 400 protesters in the last 2 weeks. Now, medical personnel within the country have been sending harrowing accounts to CNN on condition of anonymity as they fear repercussions from the regime. Now, one doctor in the city of Neshabur has described indiscriminate killing on Friday. Video of what is described as difficult to obtain and verify.
های جنگی اینجا آزاد شده و 30 نفر توی نیشابور مردن کف خیابونا. از اون 30 نفر یه تعدادشون بچهای خیلی
So audio on here stops playing, but we're gonna keep the show rolling. Right? It says hundreds killed in Iranian protests. I believe I've seen something like somewhere to 500. All right, but this is all Bible prophecy. Again, we're gonna go into it. Table of contents, 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, from the top, and reads. It says, "He answered me, all right, then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, and you measure the times by the way of prophecies." Matthew's 24th chapter. All right, one of the most read Bible chapters, okay, amongst the people. Matthew's 24th chapter, where the Lord gave his signs when he shall return. A lot of people can quote that chapter, all right, and refer back to it. So you measure the times by the way of the scriptures, okay? As Yahawashi gave the parable, he said, he was speaking, I believe, to the wicked scribes and Pharisees at the time. You hypocrites, you can discern the weather, but can't discern the times. So again, measure the times. It says, then shalt thou understand that it's the very same time. So the understanding is there. This is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world, which he made, all right, the creator, all right, as they use that term, you shall meet thy maker. So the one who created this world, all right, which was Yahawashi, he's about to return, the Messiah. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes, even, that's happening all the time, and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, and even from the beginning. So the precept in Isaiah where it says, declaring the end from the beginning. Right, so these things are already prophesied. These things are already taking place. All right, this is a sign of the end, the uproars of the people. You know, there's uproars everywhere right now. All right, so we're gonna get right continue. So when you see these things, you ask why, why these things take place. Well, America had their eyes on Iran and Israel, of course, that small state for decades, right? That a planned invasion, right, to take over that land, to take over those resources, because Iran is in a strategic place in the Middle East. One of the most prominent places is the Persian Gulf, all right? The Strait of Hormuz, where a large percentage of the world oil travel through. All right, so if Iran, if America and Israel can basically, overthrow that regime and basically take control of Iran, they can have control over the whole Middle East. That will give them leverage over their adversaries, Russia and China. Okay, so that's why Iran, all right, is on the menu, so to say. Iran is on the menu. So why is this happening? We can go right into it. Sanctions. All right, so I typed in list of sanctions against Iran. All right, so it says, sanctions against Iran are extensive, targeting its energy, oil, gas, financial, shipping, and metal sector, plus the IRGC blocking assets, banning trade, arms, oil, dual use. All right. Shalom, can you hear me? Let me know if I have volume, Baba Shah, if I have audio, Salaki. Audio perfect. Khan. Hey, call Allah, YAHAWASHI Shai. All right. So again, why is this going on in Iran? All right, it's to overthrow the America and the small hatters that Israeli state are trying to overthrow. All right,
Fears of a bloody crackdown by Iran.
So what happens is, and I played this before you got on here, brother. But you see the uproars. They say 500 civilians have been killed due to peaceful protests. All right, so why is this happening in the first place? Okay. And the precept, Yahawashi said, all right, which is one of the signs of his return, Luke 12, all right, and 49, because this is prophecy. Luke chapter 12, verse 49, and it reads, I am come to send fire on the earth, and the Lord is come to send fire on earth. Isaiah the 66th chapter. All right. Well, the Lord will plead with all flesh, will come with his chariots, roughly paraphrasing, with a whirlwind, by fire, and by the sword will the Lord plead with all flesh. So from those ships, those spaceships, those UFOs, it was a form of fire, lasers, concentrated fire coming out of those, ushering out that judgment. Okay. So the Lord is coming to send fire, and what will I if it already be kindled? So before the Lord returns, you're going to have this already taking place. Scripture says, suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. So this civil order, you see the lights out, right? No traffic lights going on. It's dark, street lights out. All right, so this is the conditions of the world that it would be in before the Lord returned. But he said he come to send fire be. But the point being, he said, what will I if it already be kindled? So his spirit is out there. The division, all right, the love waxing cold, uproars of the people, as we just read in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. All right, these are all the things that would be taking place. So again, why is this taking place? Because America, Babylon the Great, all right, and its counterpart, the Israeli state, have had their eyes set on Iran for over a decade. And if they basically get control of Iran, they control the Middle East, and that gives them leverage over Russia and China, their enemies. Okay, and a large percentage of oil, all right, commerce goes through the Persian Gulf, specifically the Strait of Hormuz. So that would give America, all right, Middle East dominance, that hegemony that they fight to obtain. So real quick, as I said, so this is the issue, you know, because the fire is set, but who set the fire? Esau, Edom, so-called white man, the devil. So I typed in, all right, list of sanctions against Iran. Sanctions against Iran are extensive, targeting its energy, oil, gas, financial, shipping, and metal sectors, plus the IRGC, blocking assets, banning trade, arms, oils, dual-use goods, restricting financial transactions, the central bank, and denying entry to designated individuals with prohibitions on investments, loans dealing with Iranian government entities by U.S., EU, and UN bodies. Key areas include blocking property, freezing assets, restricting oil, petrochemical exports, limiting access to international finance. Why? Because America controls the SWIFT system. Okay, so Iran is unable or restricted, all right, to sell their goods as they heavily depend on oil, which is what that's going to basically drain their economy. It says in banning arms sales to curb nuclear missiles program and human rights abuse. All right, so major sanctioning bodies: United States, extensive sanctions under OFAC, Treasury Department, targeting nearly all U.S. trade, investment, and financial dealings. So let's go to the chat, right? I asked the chat, how does U.S. sanctions affect Iran? Because this is going to give you the answer to why Iran is citizens decided to take to the streets and destroy their own cities, their own stores, and so on and so forth. Okay, why is this happening? Because the devil came in and he set the fire. All right, Babylon the Great, aka America. So it says, U.S. sanctions have been one of the most powerful tools Washington uses to pressure Iran over issues like its nuclear program, right? So this the reason why they saying they put sanctions on Iran, because of its nuclear program. But then you just take out their nuke sites last year, right? Operation Midnight Hammer. Last year, Operation Midnight Hammer, sometimes called Night Hammer, refers to a significant U.S. military strike in June 2025. So this was last year, against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, right? So you claim you bombed their nuclear facilities. So how can they still produce uranium, and how are they still going on with this whole nuclear program that they aren't supposed to? You bombed it, right? So why is there still sanctions on them? Why is their economy still being affected by this? I thought you got the job done back in June 2025 under Operation Midnight Hammer. It's a fucking lie. All right? Because the sanctions should be lifted. You got rid of what the problem, the issue that they're obtaining too much, enriching too much uranium. All right, uranium to basically create the weapon. So it's a lot deeper than that, man. They wanna, as I say, Habakkuk 2, right? We're gonna get that real fast. Won't make this too long. Midnight Operation Hammer, right? So why you still have sanctions on these people? This is the cause of the uproars. Habakkuk 2, verse 3 says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but and it shall speak and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." And a part of that vision is uproars of the people. All right. 2nd Ezra 9th chapter. So you see it. And it's not just happening here, it's happening all over the world. You see it here now in Babylon the Great, United States. All right, it says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him," the so-called white man. All right, he's the original, can't get right, he's wicked. It says, "But the just," who's the just? The Israelites, starting with the elect, "shall live by his faith." And that's how we live. "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man." That wine is a representation of his philosophies, his democracy, what he's planning on going into Iran armed and ready right now because they're killing protesters in the name of freedom. Okay, so that's how he transgresses. That's how he get by. He he woos the people. He sedates the people. All right, by the way, his propaganda saying he gonna bring freedom, right, to the region. All right, say he should be allowed to protest. What they call it in America, I believe the First Amendment, right? Okay, but the hypocrisy. Yet in America, you're passing certain laws and legislations that limits, and Donald Trump said himself, saying that basically we have to take out the First Amendment right because it's causing people to riot. But what was going on here? So you see the hypocrisy, okay? So it says, yea, because he transgressed by wine is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. All right, here he talking about going into Iran, but America is all messed up, man. All right, homelessness, inflation, unemployment. But he's willing to spend tax dollars, money, to send troops into Iran armed and ready. Okay? So this is where all your money is going to. Trump just increased the military budget by something billion or trillion recently, right? So that's where all your money is going to. Not niggas that's on food stamps. Okay? This is who enlarges desires hell and his death and cannot be satisfied. Okay, why? But gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. So what? That's the nature of this devil. Okay, but he the one who started the fire. So let's go back to it. So when you go back to the chat, right? Let's get to it. So let's see the reason on why these citizens have taken it to the streets, right?
Security forces
Why all these people out here? Why all these uproars? Which is prophecy. All right, U.S. sanctions have been the most powerful tools Washington uses to pressure Iran over issues like nuclear program. All right, but I thought you got rid of that last year, right? Missile development, again, falls under the guidelines of the nuclear program, right? It says in support for armed groups in the Middle East. You know, saying that Iran is, I believe, is arming Hamas. All right. It says these sanctions affect Iran in multiple economic, political, and social ways. Key is economic. That's why these people are taking it to the streets. Not just at governmental level, but also on everyday life for ordinary Iranians. So if you put sanctions on them, what the fuck you think this is going to happen? And that's how they do it. They put sanctions on them, so the people suffer. So what you think the people are going to do? They're going to take it to the streets. So sanctions is a weapon on how you overthrow a regime, because that's what these people do. They're basically going to the streets and protesting, trying to overthrow the current regime because they're suffering. But why? Because of U.S. sanctions. All right? That's why the people are suffering. It's not the regime itself. I'm not saying the regime is perfect, but this is the catalyst. So major economic impacts. This is what the sanctions have. Major economic impacts. Oil revenue and trade. Iran's economy heavily depends on oil exports for government revenue. U.S. sanctions restrict Iran's ability. This is the point. Restricts Iran's ability to sell oil internationally. Why? Because the SWIFT system, which is dominated by the U.S. dollar. So they can't sell their oil. So what you think is going to happen? Cutting off major source of income. So the government, so let's say they had a EBT or whatever the case may be. They call it government aid. Well, the government ain't making no money to give you aid because they've been restricted by the U.S. Since under previous sanctions, oil exports fell sharply. Although some exports have rebounded through workarounds, they remain well below pre-sanctions levels. All right. GDP and growth. Sanctions have slowed or shrunk Iran's economy. So what happens with that? Unemployment. So these people are going to be fucking pissed off, man. It says estimates suggest Iran's GDP was significantly larger without larger without sanctions. So it says estimates suggest Iran's GDP would be significantly larger without sanctions. So if they took off these sanctions, Iran's GDP will be larger. So you wouldn't have these situations. It says international isolation and reduced foreign investment hold back economic expansion. Okay? So people, if they have sanctions on them, no one's going to invest. You won't have foreign investors come and try to invest in Iran because it would be too risky. It'll be no profit. Okay? And then what? If you deal with Iran, America going to put sanctions on you. Again, because why? They control the global market. They control the SWIFT system where countries use to make cross-border payments. That's why the countries are moving outside of the US dollar. Okay? So, like I said, I don't want to make this too long. Currency and inflation says Iranian rial has plunged in value due largely to sanctions. So, just recently, what we just seen that the Iranian economy, the dollar collapsed. Why? Again, Iranian rial has plunged in value due largely. So it ain't the government. Due largely to sanctions and restricted trade. So they can't do nothing, man. Fueling inflation, prices for imported goods have soared. So why again, that's why these people are fucking angry. They can't afford nothing. Is it because of the Iranian government? No. It's because of sanctions. So let's get to the point here. 3, effects on people's lives, cost of living and employment. High inflation erodes purchasing power, making basic goods and services more expensive for ordinary Iranians. Unemployment and no jobs and economic contraction increase hardship for workers and families. Middle class and poverty. Research indicates the middle class has shrunk significantly due to downturns tied to sanctions, pushing many into poverty. No healthcare, and humanitarian strains. Banks and businesses often avoid even humanitarian trade with Iran out of fear of U.S. penalties. See, that's the point. Nobody don't want to deal with Iran. It's the same thing happened with Russia and the EU, right? America told the EU to stop buying Russian energy. Wow, they, out of fear of U.S. penalties, making medical supplies and equipment harder to get. So again, this is why you see the uproars, because of the goddamn devil, man. It's trying to overthrow the regime. So now here it is. They sent out the order. Yeah, these people going to get clapped. You trying to overthrow the regime, right? And of course, you have agent provocateurs amongst this, burning up their own cities. So Iran know what's going on. All right? So you see it. But at the same time, what was the main cause? Because Iran's nuclear program. That was the cause. And what was that nuclear program called? Operation Midnight Hammer. So I thought you took care of the problem. So why you still got sanctions? Sanctions should have been taken off once you hit Iran's nuclear sites. Go to show you it's a lot deeper than that. So let's get this precept real fast. Jeremiah 15:22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. All right. So this is the Lord preparing the sound of battle when you hear those troops preparing, right, to go to war. It says, how is the hammer? Was not their operation called Operation Midnight Hammer? Right? How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? So America is going to be cut asunder and broken, man. Because they are the hammer of the earth. This is how has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Because once you go into Iran, right, that's where the line is going to be drawn. Prophecy in full effect, World War III. And the end-all, be-all, the conclusion of World War III is America, a.k.a. Babylon the Great, becoming a desolation among the nations. Verse 24, I have laid a snare for thee and thou art also taken. So this is that snare, right? That snare, you're gonna take the bait, okay? O Babylon, and thou was not aware, because your pride. It says, thou art found and also caught because thou hast striven against the Lord. All right, so you're going against the Lord. The Lord has opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, which is the nukes, man, the missiles. For this is the work of the Lord God of the hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. All right, come against her from the utmost border upon her storehouses. Cast her up as heaps and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. All right, slay all her bullocks. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. So you're going to go into Iran because you already said it. They kill peaceful protesters. You're going to go in there armed and ready in the name of freedom. That's that wine. All right. But here it is. Anti-regime protests is not the government. It's the fucking sanctions, man, that they have placed on them. All right. But yet you claim you took out their nuclear sites, man. The hypocrisy, the joy of the hypocrite is yet for a moment. Okay? And I'm going to get this precept, brother. And we're going to close it out. Obadiah 1 and 3. It says, the pride of thy heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. So the pride of your heart has deceived you, man. All right? You think with your military, you can just get things done. Again, the hammer. It says, of the rock whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? All right? Hey, but the Lord, all right, he has it already written. When you go here, that's it. That's why you got your fucking paid off CNN, sites like this, American media. Basically what you're doing is promoting the war. All right? That's all you're doing. Selling it. This is advertisement for a war. You know how they say companies spend like something millions of dollars on seconds of advertisement every time, whether it's a beer commercial, whatever the case may be. They spend millions on advertisement. But what you think this is? CNN posting stuff. This is advertisement, man, for war. So when they go to war with Iran, it's already been advertised why they're going in there, because in the name of freedom. Man, this place is finished, man. So we see it. We see the facts. All right. Now you see why the people are going to the streets in Iran, because the sanctions, man. It kills the economy. So with that, Lord willing, is edifying. Giving all praises to YAHAWASHI, double honors to the apostles, great millstone. Peace and love and blessings to the elect. Looking forward, hastening to the coming of our Lord YAHAWASHI. Shalom.